A very good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, whatever place it is you're tuned on to the Life Signatures Radio. It's a daily show focusing on the subjects of purpose, productivity, and resilience. It's a daily incubator for those three topics that I do believe are critical to anybody who wants to be successful and have a significant life. If you remove any one of those three pillars, there is going to be a problem with your life. And again, we also go in there and we talk about related topics to those three. And one of those related topics we're talking about is raising spirit-led children. We've come quite a long way, over 25 plus episodes in counting on the same subject matter. Been looking at the 5 ways so far that you can know you are not raising a spirit-led child. And today we come to a close of the 5th, and then tomorrow we'll see what will happen. So stay tuned even as we do this.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Well, so we've got to continue doing this, and let me just do a recap for us so that we can be on the same page and notice where we've come from. We've been saying that you know for sure that you're not raising a spirit-led child if, number one, you do not teach them to cherish their inner compass. Number two, you know you're not raising a spirit-led child if you do not teach them the importance of self-extraction. Number three, you know you're not raising a spirit-led child if you do not nurture and nourish their creative capacities. And number four, you know that you're not raising a spirit-led child if you do not teach them the value and purpose of personal growth and personal development. And number five, we've been talking about this. We'll bring it to a close today. You know you're not raising a spirit-led child if you don't teach them to be human. You might think that being human is a default. It is actually a default because we are spirits. The thing is that the selfishness is much more pronounced than the humane spirit. But it is in there. That's why it's got to be nurtured. It's got to be mentored. It's got to be cherished. It's got to be brought to the fore. And we've said that there are several elements that you need to do if you are doing this. If you're teaching people to be humane, you need to realize that the idea of being humane is about abundance of the heart and not about the abundance of material things. In other words, you cannot say, I don't have a foundation, that's why I am not human. No, it is just realizing that there is no scarcity. Actually, that's the second thing. You're just realizing there's no scarcity about this, and therefore you share. You know that, I'm going ahead of myself, you know that you are here because of someone else. And if that is the case, then to be humane, you teach these guys to develop themselves, so much so that there is an overflow. We normally talk about this in the Christian circles. We say that if you're going to minister from the overflow. What does that mean? It means that you plug in and you accumulate and you accumulate and you accumulate the so-called anointing. If it's you're reading the Bible, if you're praying, so much so that you're oozing whatever it is that you've been plugged into. And therefore, that oozing is what you share with other people. It's difficult, or it's totally different when you're ministering from half the cup. But then again, even if you're doing ministry from half the cup, you are still doing it. The thing is that we need to focus on the overflow also. Thirdly, about being humane is to note that we are each other's keeper, that we have a responsibility of ourselves, and then we have a responsibility on other people. The other people, especially if they need something or they're going through something, they shouldn't go through something and we are around and we are folding our hands and we are not interested. We shouldn't become hermits like the world is becoming today, where someone dies in their house and they're only discovered 5 months down the line they passed away. The world is no longer communal. People are no longer caring about each other because the responsibility for others and the responsibility for society is waning. And it is waning because the spirit of humanity is not being taught, or is not being mentored, it is not being practiced. So we've got to go back there and do it. And then number 4, we talked about this yesterday, that the humane spirit notices that you cannot do it alone. And therefore the humane spirit doesn't have competition. You're not doing it for yourself, for self-aggrandizement. No, you're doing it for a difference. You're doing it for a contribution. You're doing it for an impact. And if you're doing it for a difference and a contribution and an impact, you notice that I cannot do this alone. Therefore you collaborate with other people. The spirit of competition, on the other hand, looks at itself, looks at yourself only, just being selfish, and looks at other people as if the people who are doing the same thing as you, as if they are your enemies. No, they are not. They are your collaborators. But the spirit of humanity looks at the enemy as the problem in society that needs to be solved. And therefore we need to lock arms one with another before we can be able to accomplish this. But the 5th thing that I need to close with in the episode today is that the humane spirit is a spirit that causes us to teach. It causes us to stretch and to be creative. We cannot continue to be complacent. We cannot be content with status quo. We cannot be content with the little that is there. We've got to stretch. The spirit of being humane teaches us to find as many solutions as possible, which we're going to talk about in another episode coming up, to find as many solutions as possible. You see, if you are selfish, it is easy to stretch yourself, or it's not easy to stretch yourself to be creative. It's not easy to stretch yourself. It's not easy to go an extra mile because it is only about yourself. When it is about others, then you realize this is one of the greatest books ever written by Simon Sinek. It says, the title of the book is Leaders Eat Last. In other words, you stretch yourself and you put the interests of others, their needs, their problems. You are not a messiah. I know, I understand that. But you are in a position to help. Therefore, you can be able to stretch yourself because you realize that you're not just existing for yourself and of yourself. A humane spirit will fight and will stretch and will be as creative as possible until the issue at hand is actually brought to a resolution. It's resolved. It is done and dusted. That's when you will know. And this idea of stretching is basically not necessarily something that happens once in a blue moon. It's a spirit. It's within us. It's something that is there within us. Therefore, we can decide, I am going to, at the expense of my comfort. In other words, instead of sitting back and doing something that is comfortable, that is restful, that is, something something that I'm enjoying, what am I going to do? I'm going to swap that and I'm going to help someone else. It's going to cost me something. It's going to inconvenience me in one way or another. That is where the stretching comes in. But then when we come to a problem and we realize that there's need for a solution to come. I don't know, we normally say this sometimes when you're walking around and you see some mess in the society and you say someone needs to do something about this. The humane spirit notices that someone is me, and that humane spirit cannot rest until a solution is found. And the solution can be found through very many ways. It can be through collaboration. Sometimes all you need is a spark. You just need to be the spark. You just need to be the one who initiates, the catalyst. And once you start doing something, other people notice, oh, okay, it actually can be done, it should be done. And maybe they're just waiting for someone to begin it. And now the creativity comes in and so on until the solution has been found. We need to be humane. These are the 5 things that I could only think about in terms of the humane spirit. But this is what we need to pass down to the next generations. And even as we practice the same things ourselves, we need to inculcate them in their lives. And even as they're growing, even as they're maturing, they need to know this, they need to understand these things. And we can only do that if we are trying, or if we are focused, and if we are intentional in raising spirit-led children. We've done 5 things so far that we should be able to do if we're raising spirit-led children. Tomorrow we're going to start talking about the 6th thing. I tell you, it's going to be a long series. Probably will hit 50 episodes just doing this series. It is that powerful. So until tomorrow, bye-bye and stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.